Hello, friends. I want to talk to you for just a few minutes about leadership from the life of Jesus. And let me start by asking this question. Is ambition good or bad? Is it good to be ambitious or not? Well, I guess it depends on what you're ambitious for, right? If you're ambitious for the things of God, that's probably pretty good. If you're ambitious for success by worldly standards, maybe not so much. The difference, I think, is in what we compare ourselves to. Comparison kills. And we see this in John chapter 21. After the resurrection of Jesus and when he appears to Peter, we know this long conversation that takes place between Jesus and Peter. And it's a moment where really Jesus reinstates Peter and affirms calling on his life. And in John chapter 21, in this conversation between Jesus and Peter, Peter doesn't really like what he hears from Jesus. Because basically Jesus says, to follow me, Peter, means you're going to have to die. To follow me means that you're going to have to die. Now, maybe there's not physical death for following Jesus for you today, but maybe there's the death of some ambition, the death of some dream, the death of maybe some bit of selfishness in your heart. I don't know what the death is, but to a certain extent, following Jesus means that we're going to have to die to something. Peter didn't like that. And so he looks over at John. He begins to compare himself to John, the one Jesus loves, as it's described there in John chapter 21. And Peter says to Jesus, well, what about that guy? And Jesus says, well, who cares about him? We're not talking about him, Peter. We're talking about you. You follow me. When we compare ourselves with someone else, we take our eyes off Jesus and we forget to follow. Leadership lesson, here's what it is. We have to compare ourselves first and foremost to the calling that he's given us, not to the dream in our heart, not to someone else that we see, not to the results that we think we should be having. So are you tired in this season of your leadership, maybe frustrated, a little bit discouraged right now by some of the results that you may be getting? Could be that you're ambitious for the wrong thing. So let's do this. Ask yourself, what was the last thing that God told you to do that you know beyond a shadow of a doubt came from God? That was his way of saying, follow me. What was that last thing he asked you to do? Focus on that and hold yourself accountable to that calling, not to anybody else and not to any preset notion of what the results should be. And watch God begin to not only give you rest, peace, and joy in your heart, but fruit in your ministry. Comparison kills. We're called to follow Jesus. All right, that's all for today. But let me take this opportunity to invite you to join me on a trip with the Center for Holy Land Studies called As One with Authority. This trip to Israel to study the land is built for pastors and leaders, and it's going to be April 10th to the 20th, 2018. I'll be leading this trip with my good friend, Pastor Scott Wilson of the Oaks Fellowship in Dallas, Texas, and we would love to have you, maybe some of your team, join us in Israel for that trip. All right, friends, until next time, be blessed.